Hi, I'm Helen Curtis. I'm a solicitor here in the Commercial Corporate Department at Gannon's, and I'm going to talk briefly now about purchase agreements. Although there are purchase agreements for every product under the sun, in terms of the larger purchase agreements that anyone's ever going to enter into, we most often come across purchase agreements for the acquisition of a business. Now, this can either be the purchase of all the assets of a business, or cherry pick the particular best assets of a business, or the entire business. If the business is set up as a company, as most businesses are, then that will be the acquisition of the shares of a business. When the purchaser first comes to us to say that they're looking to buy a business of some sort, the first steps that they're probably going to take are around due diligence, which, if you think in terms of a car dealership, is when you go around, kick the tyres, take the car for a test drive and check that all the details that the seller has tried to lure you in with are correct. So for a buyer buying a business, they want to look at things like the employees, the customer lists, the details of the assets that a business says that they own. Then the buyer obviously will enter into a final purchase agreement, but in terms of structuring how they pay for a business, they might cover their risks off as best as possible by deferring the payment of the purchase price for that business. The problem for the seller is that this has certain tax implications. So you're going to be coming up against the difference between what a buyer wants, which is to obviously pay for a business 5 years down the line when they're sure that everything's in place, and what the seller wants, which is to receive full payment at the top price on day one. Because we have tax expertise here at Gannon's, we can help you through the tax structuring process, as well as through the commercial terms that you need to consider when you're buying a business. There may be some things that you would not automatically think of, and we can also help you if you make a quick phone call, just to ensure that you've covered these off in the early stages, so that any seller is not going to turn around and say, this is a new term of the sale and we're not agreeing to this. One of those in particular is a restrictive covenant on any seller. You want to be sure that when you're buying a business, the person you're buying from is not going to set up next door with a competing business in exactly the same line of business. With purchase agreements of a business, unlike other purchase arrangements, it's usually the buyer who will draft the purchase agreement. And the buyer will obviously want to get in as many protections as they can to make sure that the business they're buying is as good as the seller has promised. So to cover that off, they will include a lot of warranties, promising that the business is run as well as it says it has, that the clients are the ones that the seller has said are in place, that the employees haven't got any outstanding claims against the seller. So the buyer's solicitor will usually prepare a first draft. Because we're commercial in our approach, we like to sit down with the person who's buying a business and really get to the bottom of what the risks are that need to be covered off, and make sure that we don't just churn out a huge number of pages that will lead to extensive and expensive negotiations with the seller, and make sure that what you're buying really covers off the risks that you as buyer need to think about. So there are a number of ways that we can structure your purchase to make sure that you're holding back as much of the purchase price as possible, to be sure that you are only paying for the business that you've been promised. And a way to do that is to structure an earn-out so that it's tied to the actual performance of a future business, and make sure that you can withhold some of that purchase price if the promises made by the seller don't turn out to be true.